I suppose I should start at the end. My end, that is. That poor sap doing the two-step to nowhere is me. Bet you're wondering how I got into this mess. Well, like most stories, it started with the white lie and ended with the dark truth. I needed a hospital. I needed a day off. I needed a pretty girl with soft lips and a nursing degree. What I had was a mop, a bucket, and a belly full of regret. So, how does an honest man end up spilling his guts on a dive bar floor? Don't ask me, pal. I'm just the janitor.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes of TV, from musicals to bottle episodes to a classical film noir set in a seedy Philadelphia bar. I'm Derek B. Gale.
Yeah, you've got sort of a goonish quality, Derek, so I'm really excited to be here with you. It's David Arnold, and wait, who's with us here today?
It's Chris Osborne from Play Comics, and I'm definitely not a goon.
Yes.
Excited that you're joining us. Derek and I have both had a chance to be on your podcast, and so we're really glad when you pitched this episode to come over here, because it's something that I think the two of us have wanted to talk about for a long time.
Well, I'm glad you didn't talk about it yet, because now I get to talk about it with you, and that's going to make it a lot more fun for me.
So the episode we are talking about is from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, with the episode The Janitor Always Mops Twice.
If you are not familiar with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it is a modern alt-comedy sitcom developed by Rob McElhenney and Glenn Howerton, premiering in 2005 and continuing on to today. There are currently 16 seasons and 170 episodes. The series follows the exploits of a group of narcissistic and sociopathic friends who run the Irish dive bar Paddy's Pub in South Philadelphia. But instead of being a workplace comedy, their exploits involve the group, or the gang as they are collectively known, spending most of their free time drinking, scheming, arguing among themselves, and plotting elaborate cons against others. Chris, what is your experience with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
I did not know this show existed until I started working at my current workplace. So within the past 10 years or so, God, that feels weird to say that. I can't believe I've been there that long. And, you know, I went home. I told my wife, hey, like, here's the show everybody's talking about at work. You know, watch it. You want to watch it with me? So she was up for it because she'll try stuff out with me like that.
Yeah.
And she absolutely hates it, because she does not like shows at all where you cannot like the main characters and there's nothing redeemable about them or anything.
Sure.
And so I just never watched it for a while. And then one day she was gone for something normal, and I'm just like, screw it, I'm just going to watch it. It's a good thing for me to watch without her. And I've been kind of off and on binging it ever since.
That is fantastic. Derek, what's your experience with the show?
Yeah, I remember I was watching FX at the time when it was coming out. Like I liked FX shows anyway. Do you remember like the Eddie Izzard show, The Riches, that was on FX for like 2 seasons?
I do remember The
So-
Riches. That was such a weird show.
But it was so weird, but it also like kind of rocks. Like it's so interesting, and that I want to revisit that show actually, because I remember just having some fascinating, like, interesting things to say about gender in that show, which Eddie Izzard makes sense. But
Yeah.
like stuff like that, like FX had like good programming that was on, and so I definitely knew of the show at the time, but I don't know that I really like. I don't think the marketing was very appealing to me at all for whatever reason, so I didn't really pay much attention to it. But I think it was maybe a few years in. I think it took a little while to pick up steam. Like, you know, we'll talk about it, but like once they added like Danny DeVito and stuff like that, suddenly it started hitting more and more a few years into it. And I ended up having friends that I think maybe around like season 4 or season 5 or something like that. So it had sort of kind of gained a lot more notoriety. I had friends who introduced me to it. I remember the first episodes that they showed me were the Nightman musical episode.
Oh, wow.
and Who Pooped the Bed were the two that they showed me, which I think both are like really perfect introductions to what this show is capable of. Because in both, I mean, you know, one of them is sort of like basically like a musical-y type of thing. So like, of course, that's like right up my alley, and just has so many like memorable lines and stuff like that. So that's right up my alley. And then the other one is like, I don't usually like raunchy, like scatological humor.
Sure.
But this show weirdly like is one of the only times that I think it uses it well. Like it's smart about like, if it's going to tell a poop joke, it's because they know it will be funny to tell a poop joke rather than they can't think of anything funnier than a poop joke is I think the big distinction. And so seeing a thing where it's sort of like, I don't normally like this type of humor, but like building a whole like episode around who pooped the bed and it's really funny. Like obviously there's something special about this.
Yeah.
So of course I did not keep up with the show after that, even after like experiencing like, oh, this is awesome, I should watch more of this, and then never did. But it's run on for long enough that like I have caught so many random episodes. It's just not one that I've watched all the way through. There's many episodes, so, you know, but I've definitely seen a sampling of it, and I've seen, you know, many spare episodes of it. And I think it's really good. And then one day I'm sure I'll watch through the whole thing. It's definitely been one that's on my list. I think I think that I would enjoy watching all of it, but yeah, it's good. I have no complaints. I think it's a really special show that I think is unique in that it's hard to find a show that, like Chris said, has like characters that you are supposed to hate. That's kind of like often mean spirited and like sort of evil in some ways and really raunchy, and yet somehow like doesn't feel as gross as pretty much every other show that's ever been like it.
Even to the point that I would say that there are some episodes that get a little schmaltzy that I took a look at that are almost, they pull on a heartstring. Maybe it's not my usual, it's not my Al Jean heartstrings of like, here's a little girl, don't you want to cry because she's crying? But
yeah.
I got a little emotional at the end of this episode that we're here to talk about, just because it was like a perfect moment of art. Not like, I was like, oh no, I'm so sad for Charlie Day. I just thought like, wow, I just looked at something like really incredible. And like, I was emotionally moved from that. And it was shocking to me.
Yeah, I think that it's, I think that's a good point. I think it's very clear that the people involved in this show are like artists.
Yes.
As weird as that is to say. Like, it's not just a bunch of people who are trying to do dumb shit and be funny. They are like people who are trying to do dumb shit and be funny, but through an art form that they love and through experimenting with the art form that they're in.
And that I think was my biggest surprise, because this was the first episode of It's Always Sunny that I have ever seen.
Wait, really? I didn't know that.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, no, we're gonna have some fun with this one then.
I ate it a little bit when I came on to Gimmicks to Guest and talked about Mythic Quest, and then like encouraged everyone in my life to listen to it. And I got so many, I don't know, I was gonna say letters, like I'm like some giant company, people write into me, but I got so many notes from people who were like, because Derek, you and I like went through the history, and of course there's so much shared DNA between It's Always Sunny and Mythic Quest that we talked about It's Always Sunny probably very much in passing. And I said, oh, I've never seen one. And everyone in my life was like, oh my God, you have to watch this. You would love it. And I was like, there's too much else going on. I can't possibly.
Yeah. That's also funny. I don't even remember having that conversation. For some reason, I assumed that you watched Always Sunny. That I guess I knew at some point that you hadn't and just forgot that happened.
It's fine. I mean, I did not go back and listen to our episode because that's the bad audio, David. And I can't go back. It's good audio, David, now. Anyway, so people thought I would love it, and they are mostly right. I worry that watching this episode first was a mistake, because this is, by many people, and maybe I am now among them, considered one of the best episodes of the series, just bar none. And that's really exciting for me that a gimmick episode gets to be that episode.
See, I would say it's a mistake because, I mean, kind of like you, my wife, essentially, this is the first episode she watched because it was been years since she saw the other ones and bailed on me.
Sure.
But like a lot of what makes this one so special and why I like the way everybody acts in this one is because you know how they've acted throughout the entire series. Mm-hmm. So like not knowing why they're treating a certain character this way, why characters are talking to each other the way that they are. It's just how?
Yeah.
Just how?
Yeah. I do, you know, and I agree with that in some cases, like, you know, with, McElhenney and Howard's characters, like you don't really like, I think that's like true for them, for example, but I think with like Charlie and like Dee, I feel like you get a good sense of who they are in the show and why it's different from their noir characters. Like
Yeah.
in this episode, I do think they play like, because they break character enough to be like, no, the who they really are is coming through at certain points. So like I do think you can still get a sense of when that's happening from it. But you are right. It's still sort of like there's an extra step when you don't go into it knowing who they are. Yeah. You have to kind of figure out.
And I think I got the chance to experience both, right? Because I started with this, and then of course, you know, this is the David's podcast shit. I went back to like the first episode and watched in the beginning, picked up some in season 2, some in season 3, and then it was time to like move on because I just couldn't possibly watch all of this. But I then in a second viewing of the Janitor Always Mops Twice got so much more appreciation. I think particularly to the way in which Dee keeps getting called a name that is not a name that she likes to be referred to, because this whole goon thing may as well be the way that they say bird to her, and that added a nice little flaky layer for me to enjoy. But even when I was at my least flaky, I was still having like a perfect croissant, and it really. This is a phenomenal episode of television.
Well, you know, the show, if you don't know, is created by basically the people that you see on screen, more or less. The main creator by credit goes to McElhenney, and with a co-created and executive producer credit of with Howerton and Day. But the story of sort of the show's inception is a little bit more nuanced than that. There's a lot of information on a rewatch podcast that Megan Gans produced. So there's more of a storied background for how these people kind of got involved and created this show.
Yeah, I really loved this story. They did this in their first episode of their rewatch podcast that only made it through 70 episodes before they were like, I have to go buy a soccer team in England. Bye. We'll get into that in a second. But essentially, Charlie Day, Glenn Howerton, and Rob McElhenney all first met each other because they were auditioning for similar roles. The one that they cite that they all went and auditioned to, and this was wild because I had forgotten that this movie even existed, was the fantasy romance Tuck Everlasting that I cannot imagine seeing any of these three people in.
It's very, what's funny about that is that like the movie choice there is so specific and weird, and that's really funny.
Yeah.
But it totally makes sense seeing these three guys in the same room auditioning for a similar role, because I do think that's something kind of interesting about this show is that like they all kind of have a really similar energy. Like this isn't like a cast of like sitcom archetypes where everyone is sort of very distinct.
Right.
Like these three guys, like they don't necessarily like Charlie Day and Rob McElhenney have sort of a similar look, right? Like I'm not exactly, Charlie Day is like much shorter or whatever, but like they're like white guys with dark hair and beards, similar builds. They all have a very similar comedic energy to them. And so it's always been kind of interesting to me that like they're all three in this show, and like I think it's credit to them that they're not just homogenous characters. They are very distinct when you watch them, because normally sitcoms aren't really cast like this. Like usually you do try to have a little more distinctness in terms of actor energy that they're bringing to the show, you know?
Right. And they're not doing those four archetypes that you'd see in like a Norman Lear. They're not doing, it's often compared to like the 4 elements or the 4 basic bodily fluids. Like we're not having any of that acid versus bile energy on this. They're all kind of bile, honestly. They're all kind of Rue McCallahan. I don't know how else to like frame it, but they're all kind of the bitch. While this is going on, while they're all auditioning for things and they're all trying to make it as actors, Day has been making comedic home movies with his friends from the Williamston Theater Festival, including Mary Elizabeth Ellis, who plays the waitress, and David Hornsby, who plays Rickety Skicket or Skickety Ricket or whatever, the sort of transient member of the guest cast. This inspired McElhenney and Howerton to want to make their own short film. They said, we can do this. Like, we can get a really cheap camera and get this shot. And they originally created it as It's Always Sunny on TV. McElhenney wrote scripts about 3 washed up actors who cared very little about each other. And originally it was Hornsby who played the Mac role with McElhenney behind the camera. They thought it was pretty funny, and some of their stories actually turned into episodes later. But like now McElhenney had a shot pilot to start shopping around. And he did. He got offers from Comedy Central, HBO, Showtime, and MTV, but their conditions all were, we'll do this, but you've got to hire a real creative director. And these three folks were like, no, we don't want to do that. We are weird little insurgents. Let us be like goofballs together.
Yeah. Well, and you can see the version of this that like any of those networks would want to do where they hire like a regular sitcom showrunner, and this just kind of becomes a regular sitcom with that concept, you know?
Exactly. FX, on the other hand, is like, nope, we'll take it. We only have one condition. You can't be actors. There's too many sitcoms right now about actors. And McElhenney was instantly like, it doesn't matter what they do. And so because he was right then working for a bar in Philadelphia, he said, what if they worked at a bar? And that is how we got It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
It's so funny. Honestly, good on FX for just being like, we don't need more shows about actors. Who gives a shit about that? That's so self-indulgent. Like, I love that.
And 2005, 2006, this was like Entourage was owning the world. It was the dark ages of television.
Oh my God.
Come for me, Entourage fans.
No, I think even Entourage fans would agree with you on that, to be honest. From my understanding of the Entourage fandom.
Yeah. Okay, first season is a smash success, but only for like 5 people. Everyone who watches it really loves it. They are like obsessed with it, but it's FX. Like it's not even the FX that you think of today. So like not a lot of people are watching it. Nobody's sort of tuning in. And FX president John Landgraf approached the group with what McElhenney describes as a recommendation to bring on a 5th cast member. And then when the 4 of them were like, no, we're not going to do that, Landgraf clarified that it was like, you will take on a 5th cast member or you will not be on the air for season 2. Landgraf was part of a production company called Jersey Films, which was founded by Danny DeVito, Michael Schamberg, and Stacey Scher. And this was sort of DeVito doing what we love when rich people do, which is take some of your money and go and invest it and find things that can grow out of it. Jersey Films is like what got Quentin Tarantino started. It's what got Ben Stiller his first like gig. This is the thing that funded a lot of things that we love and grew. And they wanted to expand it to television. So back in the 90s, they hired John Landgraf to be their head of TV. And that's where the DeVito Landgraf connection comes from. So Landgraf saying, we want you to bring on this 5th person. I know Danny DeVito. I bet he would come on. He twists McElhenney's arm and the other 3 creatives to say, yes, let's bring on a 5th person. And then brings it to DeVito, who's like, I don't know about this. And it ends up being that, so what had happened is DeVito had just gotten his guest Emmy on Friends as being the stripper. And he didn't want to go back to what he said, quote, normal television was. He didn't want to do anything regular. He only wanted to be weird and have fun. And he was worried that this sitcom would be too normal. And his daughter was the one who convinced him that she thought that this would be the next big thing for him. So he said yes. And I think anyone who has watched this series knows that Danny DeVito got to be weird. And it is really sort of I'm not going to even call it a second coming for DeVito, because this is really like his 4th round.
Yeah. But it does feel like it's really indicative of a particular phase in his career that he has been in since he's been on the show, because he truly doesn't do anything other than weird shit now, like truly. And it's like, and everyone just is kind of cool with it. And he's just kind of embraced his own weirdness, I think, in real life too, you know? So it's like, it does feel like this show was sort of like a helpful backbone for where he is at in his life now, which is really cool.
Yeah. So Chris, you've watched a lot more of the series. Do you feel a big change from season 1 to season 2 when DeVito came on?
No, there's definitely a big change in there. Going in there, just the fact that adding a 5th cast member anyway is going to have, but DeVito being a lot older than everybody, having all these different experiences that he can bring into it from his character perspective. And I mean, Danny DeVito is just a weird little guy in every single way. So like, just knowing that he gets to go in there and they have somebody who can be the person who's out weirding Charlie and Mac and Dennis.
Yeah.
Then that is good. And they found a nice balance with everything too. Everybody has their weird thing about them, So it's not like one person is always the weird one, but where Charlie, Back, and Dennis and Dee to an extent always were weird, but it was like, let's go 2, maybe 3 steps beyond where a normal person would go for something. Frank gets to come in and let's go 500 steps past where somebody would go.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's such a funny idea to have characters that are already kind of big, then suddenly have to be the straight man to another character depending on the scene. Like, that is such a funny concept.
I think what's really struck to me now that I've seen some episodes, like I watched one where Frank like strips down and then covers himself in antibacterial fluid and like rolls around on the floor. And
Sure.
I think, especially now that I've done this research and now that I've seen more episodes, it felt a little bit more organic. But I think if I had just seen that sight unseen, I would have been like, what are you doing to Danny DeVito? Like, this is a national treasure. Don't make him do this. And now I know that like, he's probably the one who pitched this.
Right.
That makes me feel, I don't know, much differently about this and much more like this, everyone's in on the joke. So it doesn't actually feel like anyone's being made fun of. And I think maybe that's the wholesomeness that I was almost talking about, that is encapsulated in this show that is about terrible people. And in
That's
that way,
interesting.
I think it's very different than Seinfeld, I guess, is really, a lot of people compare this to Seinfeld. And yet I think that this show actually exists in a much more wholesome place than Seinfeld, even though the characters themselves are individually more terrible than any of the 4 Seinfeld characters.
I guess because like Seinfeld, the whole deal is that like those characters don't realize how awful they are, and I do feel like these characters generally do. Like,
Yeah,
they
that's what
kind
it
of
is.
know.
That's what it
even if they
is.
don't want to admit it, they know.
Yeah.
Like,
That nail on
that
the
is
head,
interesting.
Derek.
Like, there's a trueness to themselves that doesn't exist in a lot of other sitcoms.
Nail on the head. And I think that maybe that's what I look for as a queer viewer of media, is like someone who can just like come out of the closet and be a freak. And they're freaks, all 5 of them. And frankly, all the guest cast too are all freaks too.
There isn't a sense of just like every like in the real life context of it, there's a sense that every actor is just there to have fun.
Yeah.
Like, and just do weird bits. And like you said, everybody's just kind of in on the joke, which is not always the energy you get on a comedy show.
There's a little bit else in the background that I found about the show's conception that I just want to give a little bit of time to. During the show's sort of initial launch, McElhenney was dating actress Jordan Reed, who originally read the Sweet D roles and was filmed in sort of the shopped around pilot before they got like a pickup and they actually filmed the pilot. There's a pretty major falling out between Reed and McElhenney before the series is picked up, and they did break up. The show got picked for series. Reed was paid for the episode that she filmed, and then she was fired by her agent and manager and not brought on for the show. She has described a series of events that I can't confirm, that has sort of been stricken from her public profile, but exists because it's the internet. It's out there. But today she's sort of a momfluencer. And she sells like things for moms and workbooks and activities for people who have had birth. And none of the show's creators, creative talent, Landgraf, or anyone have responded to her criticisms that she also co-created the show. So I just thought I'd put that out there because it was really fascinating to find this recollection of a person I didn't even know.
Yeah, I'm completely blanking on who she is. So
Well, she's
maybe that's why.
If you were not a woman who'd given birth, I don't know how you would have seen her outside of this research. She never acted in Hollywood. This was just
I feel better about not knowing who it is now.
Sorry. Yeah, she had never actually made it. But she very successful in her momfluencer era.
Wednesday.
It's Frank. He's been diarrhea poisoned.
Why didn't Frank call me himself? Why send one of his goons?
I'm a knockout blonde with a body that would make a statue blush.
I get more of a goon vibe from you.
What?
Sunny is all new.
Where were you when the brown lightning hit? Morning, dollface. Ow! Why are you smiling? You're supposed to be the goon.
I want to be something better.
What you want? We're goons.
All right, I'm out of here.
All right. Goodbye, goon.
Sunny, all new, Wednesday at 10. Only on FXX.
Well, the episode we are talking about is season 14, episode 6, entitled The Janitor Always Mops Twice. The original air date was October 30th, 2019. And if you're sort of like, oh, is this supposed to be like a Halloween thing? It wasn't actually intended. It just sort of happened like that, which is funny.
I think that's hilarious because, like, I don't know, like, it kind of works as a Halloween episode, don't you think? Like, everyone's in costumes.
It's not a Halloween episode.
Yeah, right.
This is kind of
Exactly.
funny.
It works.
But I will say the director is like, this was absolutely not a Halloween episode. We're
Yeah.
like, okay, got it, man.
I'm sorry, once you put art into the world, it is how people perceive it and not how you intended it.
Sorry. Anything can be a Halloween episode if you try hard enough. The synopsis for IMDb for this one is, in the black and white noir world of his memory, Charlie navigates the seedy underbelly of Philadelphia as Frank has been diarrhea poisoned, and it's up to Charlie to clean up the mess. The black and white noir world of his memory. That's so funny to me.
Love it. Just incredible.
The episode was directed by Heath Cullens. He's one of those guys. He's pretty much just in the modern kind of alt comedy zone you would expect. Like all the shows that he's been directing on are in the sort of same universe in a way of like Always Sunny. Like he's directed on Mythic Quest. He's directed on You're the Worst and AP Bio. He did every episode of Great Minds with Dan Harmon. Like he's done, I mean, all those people are sort of in that same sort of sphere, right? I didn't find information about this, but on his website, he did specifically say he is currently working on directing an unnamed feature, which would be his feature film debut in a movie starring Bob Odenkirk, Jake Johnson, and Bobby Moynihan.
Oh,
So,
sweet. Nice.
sounds pretty great.
I'm sold right there. Let's do it.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, I hope that happens because it hasn't been officially announced yet. It seems like according to every other source. But good luck. Always Sunny is probably his most significant credit. He directed 13 episodes so far. He's currently still on the show. He became co-executive producer in its most recent season last year. And he does tend to direct some of the weirder episodes of the show. Like he's cited like The Gang Hits the Slopes and Being Frank as like one of his, two of his standout episodes that are some of the weirder episodes of the show. And that includes this one as well. He did this like unofficial Reddit AMA. It was actually really funny because it was just the reaction page on Reddit that is like on the Always Sunny Reddit where it's just people talking about the episode. He just sort of jumped in and sort of like, hey guys, I directed it. Do you want to just ask you questions? And they're like, okay.
It's
and then
so
just did an
weird.
impromptu AMA, which is really cool.
It's awesome, but it's not even the top voted reaction to the episode though. That I think is the thing that's so funny.
It is very funny. But he said that, noir is one of his favorite film styles. And he's pretty sure that like everyone who worked on the show knew that. So when they were conceiving this episode, of course he would be the first one that they would go to, and he says like in terms of like directing weirder episodes like this and why it seems like he ends up kind of being the one who directs some of their bigger swings. He says, and I quote, "The bigger stylistic swings are more fun from a technical and directing perspective. I've been really lucky that they've asked me to direct some of the weird ones over the series," which is just, I think it's really, it's cool. I know that, also he directed the Mythic Quest episode, The Fish and the Whale, which is his most recent one, that also has a noir-esque sort of envelope to it. So it's like it seems like he is sort of become a go-to guy in directing like high concept things that sort of embrace other film styles, especially when it comes to a noir-y thing. And I do think maybe you can tell in this because it's so well directed in terms of looking like a classic like 40s 50s noir movie. And he even like apparently appears like in this episode in the background, like he specifically was trying to go for an Alfred Hitchcock type of thing because he's doing a noir movie anyway, and Alfred Hitchcock has directed noir films. So he didn't say what scene he was in, but he did just say that it's sort of like you can't really tell because he's just somewhere like in the background. So
Yeah. I looked for him. I couldn't find him. Sorry.
yeah,
buddy.
I imagine it's like with the party scene, probably with the Sweet 16 party scene.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people there.
I was thinking either the party or maybe he was one of the people who like walked by on the street when
Maybe.
Yeah, Charlie first sees the waitress. But otherwise, like well done. It's a true cameo. And that fills the role very well.
The episode was written by Megan Gans. We had talked about her very briefly in our Mythic Quest episode because she co-wrote the quarantine episode we covered. But Gans, I would say, I hope that like as time goes by, like in retrospect, she's considered like one of the most important like TV comedy writers of like the 2010s and 2020s, because it truly is unreal. Like the things that she has touched and the things that she has done and how many things that she has done are like some of the best episodes of comedy TV ever.
Yeah.
Like, and kind of like, I don't want to say she's unsung because I think people who are in this sort of zone know who she is, but she's not like a household name. And I feel like she maybe should be because she's clearly incredibly, bizarrely, and wildly good writer.
Yeah.
So she, and she started early with like some of the most like, top tier comedic institutions. Because while she was studying at the University of Michigan, she interned at Mad Magazine. So she was already working for Mad Magazine.
Just incredible. Also, shout out to a Michigander. She's from Kalamazoo, the city I was born in.
Nice.
And
I didn't know that.
Not born too much far away from me. So like, ooh, we could have been friends, Megan, you and me. I wouldn't have been as funny as you.
Come on to the pod, Megan.
Yeah, come on to the pod.
Yeah. But apparently editor-in-chief John Ficarra encouraged her to stay in New York and pursue comedy writing, right? So, you basically have Mad Magazine telling you, like, you're really good at this. Like, that's a nice bit of validation. After she graduates, she becomes an assistant editor for The Onion. Of course, like another institution in comedy, right? Of course it would be a dream job. Like, she said that she would wanted to write for that since like the age of 13. So it's like...
So incredible. I mean, I remember The Onion when I was like early internet too. Like we're talking early internet Onion.
I remember the physical printed Onion newspapers. Like,
Isn't that
absolutely.
So cool. But the next part of her story is one of my favorites. So in 2018, the NPR program This American Life with Ira Glass interviewed some of the staff of The Onion for like a bit. And Megan Gans was among the staff that they interviewed. And she nailed the interview so well that an agent from United Talent Agency, UTA, reached out to her and said, "You've got to come write for television in LA. We will get you a job." And Gans had to be like, I don't want to leave the thing that I wanted since I was 13 years old to write for The Onion. I'm not going to leave there. But they got her a job. And so she moved to LA and started writing for television.
It's so interesting because I do think that like she's a great writer, but she is really good in interviews. She's really good on podcasts. She's really good on commentaries. Like she is truly like someone who I think just kind of embodies like comedy in a way. So it totally makes so much sense to me that like just from an interview on NPR, people are like, get this lady a job.
Right. And that job ends up being the Comedy Central sketch show Important Things with Dimitri Martin, which is it. I
remember that at all.
Oh, I remember it. It was a sketch show on Comedy Central. To, calm down, Derek. There were 100 of them. So
I mean, really, that's all you need to remember. It is what it is.
Yeah,
you won't hate yourself for watching it.
It lasted 2 seasons, and at the end of it, she was like, "Well, I guess I'll just try out for something else. And if it doesn't work, I'll just go back to whatever else awaits me." And she gets staffed on a little show called Community.
Oh my God. And this is where I first learned who she was. And what, I mean, obviously a lot of this is her talent, but I think there's got to be a little bit of luck here too, because if the next show that she got staffed on was just some, run of the mill, like ABC, CBS sitcom or whatever, it wouldn't work. She probably wouldn't be a good fit for it. And she probably would have hated it. But the fact that the sitcom she got hired on was Community, which at the time people didn't know would be what it was. Like it's common knowledge. Like the first half of the first season of Community is like a relatively normal single camp sitcom with really good actors and some like snappy writing. But I think her sense of humor is so perfect for what Community sort of becomes. And her first script is in season 2, Cooperative Calligraphy, which is that fucking bottle episode, one of the most famous episodes of the show, like one of the most famous episodes, I would say, of television in general at this point. Like this is what people point to when they need to know what a bottle episode is. And she wrote that, and that was her first episode of Community.
And she just auctioned off the script of it, and I bid on it for you, Derek, and was outbid instantly.
Oh,
I believe it went for the higher number of 4 digits than I was willing to spend on our friendship.
You tried though, and that's the important part.
I did. They wouldn't ship internationally, but I was like, it's fine. I was just going to give it to Derek anyway, so I'll just ship it to Derek.
It's still cool that happened, but I would have been mad if you spent too much money on that, honestly.
I was willing to spend a fair bit of money on it, but not what it went for, and it all went for a good cause, cancer research. So fantastic. Yeah, she's been doing this with a lot of her Community swag recently.
Yeah. And she wrote a lot. She wrote many episodes of Community. She wrote, and I think she was a major part of keeping the show held together when Dan Harmon was gone in season 4. Because like she wrote a lot of the biggest episodes that season, and obviously that season is the most beloved one, but I do think that a lot of her writing on that season was good. I know that she's publicly spoken about, having issues with Dan Harmon. You can look it up if you want to. And that I think she's like publicly forgiven him and everything like that. But it's like all of that's to say she was such an instrumental part of Community being what it was, and went through some stuff on that show and still turned out really, really amazing writing for it and some of the best things about it, and really kind of helped hold that show together even at its sort of darkest points. And then, then she gets to move on to Modern Family, which is like a fucking Emmy train that would not stop winning Emmys. Gets to write 7 episodes. She writes another high concept episode. She writes Connection Lost, which was their like basically their Zoom episode before there was a such thing as a Zoom episode.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it's wild because I think without that Community stop that you talked about, Derek, would she have gotten staffed on Modern Family and then been able to pull off a high concept episode? Because I don't know that it would have been there because that Modern Family is the going from this Comedy Central sketch show into like the sitcom. And it's a more modern take on the sitcom. It's, the sort of new docuseries way of filming, but it didn't necessarily give you the credo to be like, well, I'm going to write a weird one. But yet when Gans is who Gans is by the time she joins Modern Family, I would say like, let's go wild. Let's do something different. And I think Connection Lost is such a phenomenal episode of television. And it feels, now that I'm more familiar with like who she is, like it feels very Gansy. I'm now starting to get a sense of like what her style is. Yeah,
absolutely. In 2016, she gets staffed for It's Always Sunny and has been a writer and director on 11 episodes, including this one. And from here, she goes on to co-create and be one of the main writers on Mythic Quest. So again, like she's hitting all of these like major sort of like comedy, alt comedy, like like it's funny because she's literally ranging from like, very mainstream, like Emmy people love it, like Modern Family type shows, to cult shows like Community, to like stuff like It's Always Sunny and Mythic Quest. So it's like she runs the gamut of like mainstream comedy to alt comedy, like across the board. And again, wrote for freaking Mad Magazine and The Onion. Like that's pretty amazing.
Incredible history here. I just really love. I might be like a Gans stan now.
Oh, absolutely. She's incredible. Like truly, like I said, one of the most important like TV comedy writers of our era, I think. And it's exciting to know that she probably still has a long career ahead of her, and I'm excited to see what else she ends up doing in the comedy world. I hope she gets to like create more shows. Yeah,
me too. All right, well, let's talk about the cast. So some of the cast we talked a little bit about their history because they're also central to the formation of the show. But Charlie Day plays Charlie Kelly. It's Always Sunny is probably his best known live action role, but he is a fairly prolific voice actor, particularly as Benny from the Lego Movie franchise. And he was Luigi in that Super Mario Brothers movie from 2023.
Yeah. I would also say a lot of people know him from Pacific Rim too.
Oh, okay.
He's it's a pretty standout role. In Pacific Rim.
I saw it in his IMDb credits, but not being familiar with the film, I was just like, okay, well, this is cool that you got a movie. Great. That's fun to know.
And he's done other movies too. I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but.
Well, he was recently in a really cute rom-com with Jenny Slate called I Want You Back that's on Amazon Prime, which I was only interested in because of Jenny Slate. And then Charlie Day was just an added bonus. Very cute, them together, by the way.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I don't know there were huge rom-com fans on this show, but like I really
like rom-coms.
I really liked it.
Yeah, I love rom-coms. There should be more of them.
I will say that it's funny because these 3 dudes sort of each take on like one of the major roles that it takes to like make television as art. And Charlie Day is a little bit more in the producer role. So he ends up producing a lot of things. He is one of the co-creators and producers on Mythic Quest, despite never like being on screen, unlike a lot of other It's Always Sunny people, until this season when he was in their once a season unique episode rebrand. I just think it's really fun that he is sort of dipping his toes and like, I'm going to invest and find some ways to like connect people I know to make films and television shows happen. Mm-hmm. Howerton, on the other hand, Glenn Howerton, who plays Dennis Reynolds, he is our actor. He went to Juilliard, excuse me very much. He is like the one who came up in the most traditional version. And it makes sense because he's the most prolific actor. He notably started with a recurring role on That 80s Show that he auditioned for with Charlie Day, and he got the job and Day didn't.
But who's really remembering That 80s Show? Or
for real, Derek. I pulled this up
no.
and I was like, I remember nothing about this.
I remember that it sucked. That's what I remember of it, and then it didn't last long.
That's about where I am. I just have to remember that so
Yeah.
I don't accidentally try to watch it.
Yeah.
But he generally sticks to sitcoms, enjoying an arc on the Mindy Project as Cliff, and then starring in his own sitcom, the very good AP Bio. Most recently, his non-It's Always Sunny credits are as the role of Fred in the animated Velma show.
I forgot that he was in that.
It's aggressively okay.
And canceled, right? So
I think so. I remember that it got renewed and then got canceled.
You're talking the Mindy Keeling one, right?
Yeah, it's got like a
it's gone.
It's got a 1.2 star on IMDb. It's been review bombed.
People were weird about that show. I don't even feel like going down that road right now.
Okay, great. And Rob McElhenney plays Mac. He's more of a writer than the other two, so that's sort of the third heat here. But he has a decent background in acting and producing. He was opposite Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the 2003 gay rom-com Latter Days that I'm obsessed with whenever it shows up. It is about a missionary who falls in love with a surfer.
Okay. I have not seen that. That does sound really interesting.
What's fun is that part of why he took it is that he wasn't afraid to take on gay roles. And even though his character is not gay, he's playing straight with Joseph Gordon-Levitt against the gay missionary. He has this sort of affinity for the queer community. His mother came out as lesbian after divorcing his father. His two younger brothers are both gay. He considers himself like an active part of queer rights liberation and the movement for equality. And he considers that to be sort of an unequivocal area. So I listened to quite a few interviews with McElhenney, and I listened to his WTF with Mark Maron, and he actually like pushes back on Mark pretty strongly when Mark got into, Mark's problematic stuff. And so it was really nice to hear. I like that there's an ally out there, and I like that it's McElhenney. And I think some of that got represented in Mac the character.
And especially if you've only seen a handful of episodes, there's probably some really big ones that you haven't seen yet.
I watched him come out. I watched the one where they died and go to hell. I know culturally about this show. I just hadn't seen it. Of course, he creates and stars in Mythic Quest, and people rave about this one, but it's totally new for me, and I jaw-dropped to learn that it had won Emmys. Welcome to Wrexham, which is a docuseries chronicling McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds' purchase and stewardship of the Wrexham AFC, the third oldest football club. And because of this and its relative success and how geeky soccer people are, he voices himself in FIFA 23 as an Easter egg. All right, we've got Caitlin Olsen as Dee Reynolds. Olsen started as a member of the Groundlings in their Sunday company. Their Groundlings have like these different performance times and schedules. So just knowing that it was the Sunday company, it's not better or worse than any others. She made her television debut in 2000 with Curb Your Enthusiasm and went on to appear on The Drew Carey Show, Mismatch, and The George Lopez Show prior to coming on for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And out of the four actors, Olsen is the most prolific actor. And outside of It's Always Sunny, she's been in The New Girl, The Mick Hacks. She had a really fun arc on Hacks and a show called High Potential, which I've never heard of. She's so funny.
She's so funny.
I just adore her.
Yeah, just the way she's able to push everybody off and, keep staying as positive as she is when everybody is just going around calling her a bird the whole time.
And,
it's great.
I mean, legitimately gorgeous. We'll talk about it when we talk about this episode, but smoke show from start to finish.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then you got Danny DeVito. I'm not going to go through Danny DeVito's CV here. We just simply don't have enough time. He's been acting since the 1970s, has been in tons of roles. It might not be relevant to a lot of the audience, but I think probably the first time I saw Danny DeVito was Taxi reruns. We were a big Taxi.
Sure. Yeah,
we
I would have
big
thought
Taxi
Matilda,
watching family.
but okay.
That's fair. I mean, I was the right age to watch Matilda, and he, of course, was the father and narrator in Matilda and director, frankly, which I didn't know because I would have watched that as a child. I mean, the Penguin in Batman Returns.
Yeah. It's actually funny. I don't think about it. I don't really know what the first thing I would have seen Danny DeVito in was because, there's so many, because he was already in so many movies that I would have seen as a kid that came out, before the iconic ones that I obviously knew him from The Penguin, but like I'd seen like
Right,
Twins
right.
and Junior and stuff too as a kid. So like I truly don't know what my introduction to him was. I think he's one of those actors for me that's just always kind of been there because he's always appearing in movies that I watched as a kid anyway.
He had a really nice interview where he was asked a lot of things, but one of them was like, what was it like working with Schwarzenegger? He was like, I would work with Arnold Schwarzenegger any day of the week to do a comedy. And that was so funny to read about because of course Schwarzenegger did plenty of comedies in the late 80s and 90s. It was sort of his like reaction to the Terminator of it all. And they were all box office smash. Well, they were almost all box office smashes. And so I don't know if that was part of it or maybe they just had a lot of fun working together because they look funny next to each other, which I think is why they got cast.
They probably do. And I think Schwarzenegger is like a funny guy to work with. They're probably, DeVito probably just enjoyed working with him.
I know that the most I've seen DeVito is from The War of the Roses because my dad had a thing for Kathleen Turner. And so he would just put on the VHS all the time. That is a movie that was inappropriate for me to watch at that age. And he's Phil in Hercules. That was the one that I was like, man, I forgot about this. I forgot that he was the little goat dude.
I mean, he's got a great voice. Makes sense that he would do good voice acting roles too, you know?
Yeah, but he never, the thing is that when you read interviews with DeVito, he talks about these phases of his life and he's like, well, then I stopped acting. And if you look at his credits, he never stopped acting, but he would take on this sort of new era of roles, as we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. There's a couple other folks in this who are part of the It's Always Sunny world, but they are guest actors. The first is David Hornsby, who we talked about a little bit over. He's part of the DNA of this show, but he plays Rickety Cricket, a recurring guest character since season 2, who is usually transient. After the gang ruined his life, he used to be a preacher. They sort of ended his preacherdom by trying to promise D to him. And now he's transient. He is unhoused. He is frequently involved in drugs and other grotesque things. And that's what he brings to this episode too.
Fun.
But he's a pretty good actor. I mean, if you haven't seen David Hornsby from this, you may have seen him from Mythic Quest. He also had a recurring role on 6 Feet Under, The Mullets, and a sitcom called Jake in Progress. Rickety Cricket is a fan favorite. I will say about both him and the waitress. Part of why they are in this is that people love when they show up. He also has a connection with the episode that we talked about recently on Adventure Time. He was on one of the random cartoons. He was fanboy of Fanboy and Chum Chum, which came from random cartoons. I thought that was really neat.
Okay, cool. I didn't know that.
And then last but not least, we have Mary Elizabeth Ellis as the waitress, never otherwise named, but she's been there since the pilot. She is the barista / waitress who works nearby where the guys typically frequent and Charlie had a crush on ever since the very beginning. It's Always Sunny is among her breakout roles, but she is a beloved recurring fan favorite and has a lot of other credits. She was on the Rob Lowe vehicle, The Grinder, and then the strange Rob Lowe follow-up where it's also his son that is with him, that I've forgotten the name of. She was in one episode. She was in Santa Clarita Diet, though. And then recently she had a big role in Licorice Pizza, which I think, was pretty critically reviewed.
Here's my question: as someone who is not has not kept up with Always Sunny, so I don't think probably haven't seen anything that comes after this episode. She's like, her character in the noir sort of alternate universe dream sequence, whatever this is, like leaves at the end of it. Is she back in future episodes after this? Is this her like last episode of the show?
No, it is not. She has roles in to this day and continues to come back.
Because it would have been cool if this is how they wrote out her character.
That is fun,
you know
but no, she does. She can, but not season 1, the waitress who was like in every episode. It's now like she's there every once in a while.
Sure.
She most recently was on the Michael Schur show with Ted Danson, Man on the Inside, where he's like investigating a nursing home that I watched one episode.
Okay.
Wasn't for me, but she was good. She was good in it.
Okay. Well, the gimmick of this episode, it's a noir one. We already said it. We've done noirs a bunch of times. TV shows fucking love doing noirs because it's such a distinctive filmmaking style. It's such a distinctive way to write dialogue, write characters. You get an opportunity to write a fun mystery. And I think there's many ways you can do noir episodes of a show, right? You can do it as like a tongue-in-cheek joke thing or a parody. You can be doing it, taking it seriously. We did like Smallville's noir episode was the first one we did on this podcast. And that's like a very like, they wanted to seriously obviously try to commit to doing as authentically of a noir as possible. We've also done like step by step doing a noir episode. And that's just a fun, stupid little get parody for children, you know, like Fringe is a bit of like both in it. Right. And I think interesting, like this episode is a little bit of both. Like it is obviously playing comedically with noir things, but honestly, it's more of like a very like kind of serious attention to detail take on a noir, which is so funny to me that this was the show's approach to it.
When I sat down for this, I was like, have I covered a noir on gimmicks? I remember that we did the Fringe episode, but that was so...
There's a lot of stuff. It was
so fantastical. The Superman animated series that we did was a little noir-y because it had voiceover. Yeah. But this is the most that I was like, oh, buckle in. We're doing noir here.
And this one, I would say the best explanation I can think of for how noir it wants to get is it is like a dead, super serious noir, except when it's not.
Right. Yes. Oh my gosh, Chris, you took the words out of my mouth because nobody's winking at the camera. It's just sometimes we let down the first character, which is the noir character, and then the second character is right behind it, which is the regular It's Always Sunny character. And then the noir comes back up. But it never felt to me like we were breaking. It never felt like a break. It just felt like, I don't know, like a momentary glimpse. And they were all so expertly done, and it was peppered so infrequently that I think it just hit the right balance.
Well, I'm trying to look sexy.
You're supposed to be dead.
I know I can be dead and sexy.
You're not supposed to be sexy. You're supposed to be the goon.
No, I'm not the goon. I don't want to be the goon. I want to be something better.
But you are the goon.
I'm not the goddamn goon.
You're the goon, D.
Who else is a goon? You're the
How
goon.
can I be a goon? I'm wearing a nightie.
You're a goon in a nightie.
Maybe that's your murder weapon. You
God damn it.
take it off.
All right, I'm out of here.
All right. Goodbye, goon.
It's done really sparingly when they sort of break character, or however you want to say it, and like really, it's not everyone does it. It's not everyone gets a moment like that. D gets the most of it, because like pretty much every sequence that she's in, she gets to break character. But the fact that she's really the only one who gets to do it like more than once, I think is really, really cool.
And it works out really well with her character too, because in the show, she's trying to be an actress and is just horrible at it. So you get to bring that in, and you can't do this noir thing? Come on, D.
Yeah. Yeah.
That actually is a really funny take. Yeah. It's just sort of like, if you sort of pretend like it's kind of like these characters are all acting in these roles, and the one person who wants to be an actor is the one who just fucking can't do it. Like, it's really funny.
So we've talked about noir before on the show, but just in case this is your first gimmicks foray into noir, film noir is from French for dark film, and it's best described as a stylish crime drama, most associated with hard-boiled detective stories from the 1940s and 1950s, though the idea of literary criticism of noir and hardboiled is apparently more nuanced, as I learned from today. It is heavily associated with the vibes, I guess I will say, of this sort of high contrast, black and white visual style that all has its roots in German expressionist cinematography.
Yeah, lots of heavy shadows.
And I love them. I love them so much. And watching this made me think about our conversations of like Outer Limits and the Donna Reed show, when we have watched something that is like filmed in black and white because that was the technology available to them. And this is so much more stylized black and white that it's so fun to look at.
Well, I think when you watch like a good noir movie from that time period, it is sort of like, oh, this doesn't look like the other black and white movies or black and white TV shows I've seen. Like that, it isn't just that it's in black and white. Like you can't just like desaturate something and be like, now it's a noir. It's like, no, there is a particular way you are lighting and shooting this. And the types of like close-ups that you use on characters, and the half light on people's faces, often things like that makes it very distinct.
There are a lot of common story tropes that you look for in a noir. You've got your down on your luck detective, the interaction between a main character and these sexy femme fatales that are part of their life. Lots of murders, frame-ups, twists, undercover cops, and just a ton of smoking. This was more true than ever in the Smallville episode, that I think was the most like shocking of it all, because they're all, in my mind, they're going to always be 15 years old, and like just watching everyone smoke is so weird. But here it felt a little bit normal, because even while watching it, I was like, do these characters smoke normally? I don't even know, because it seems like they would.
Yeah.
But also like the noir relies on this like really cynical worldview, and this is where I started to like dig into, because obviously the name of this is based on the name of a very famous hard-boiled crime novel called The Postman Always Rings Twice, and instead it's The Janitor Always Mops Twice. Far as I can tell, that's really just a fun little reference. There's no shared plot DNA between these, but that is probably considered one of the most famous hard-boiled detective or hard-boiled crime stories from James Cain. The novel is hard-boiled because it's about one person and their experiences rather than like the system of oppression, which is the noir crime area of novels. But today in film noir, they kind of all get scrunched together. So this only really matters when you're looking back at the source material. The namesake novel was banned in many cities because it depicted a tremendous amount of sadomasochism, and it is from
Whoa! I didn't know
1934.
that.
Oh, I read some of this. It's given 50 Shades a run for its money. Like these people. Oh yeah, he's choking her out. She's loving it. It was very very surprising.
Wow, I had no idea. That's fascinating. I mean, noirs have like some dark shit in them, you know. Like that's what's kind of fun about it. That it's just like sometimes there's subject matter that you wouldn't expect to have come out of a novel or a movie from the 40s and 50s. So.
And since I've got you here, why is it called The Postman Always Rings Twice? Lot of speculation in literary criticism over the past nearly 100 years about this. And then finally, someone found some letters from this guy, and it was like, I was always waiting to find out if I'd sold a book. And if I sold a book, the postman would ring my doorbell twice. And I thought that sounded like a good name for a novel. Obsessed.
That's so funny. Oh my, is there anything in the novel to like trying to justify why it's relevant, or is it truly is just a? It was a random
title. They're never relying on getting post or anything like that. Ringing twice though would also be indicative of getting like more important news that you needed to sign for. Otherwise, a postman might leave something at your door, which was sort of the accepted literary criticism, which is not that far off from the actual reason, but the actual reason being like, ooh, a check's here versus like, I got bad news about my lover being dead.
But I do kind of love the idea of like, if you're a writer who really struggles with coming up with titles, which I can relate to, and it's sort of like, you know what, you just call it something that sounds kind of cool, and people
will do it for you.
People will just like figure it out.
Yeah, and then here's all I asked, Derek, is just send me a letter. I'll put it in a box. Somebody will find it 20, 30 years after we're both dead and be like, here's the answer.
Yeah, right. That's so funny.
And I've got to say that the key to, we already talked a little bit about it, but the key to getting this right, and I think why it worked so much for me, was the right balance of the taking it very, very seriously and then let it be funny later. Every time we use the phrase diarrhea poisoning, it is a real thing in this world and nobody's laughing at it.
That's so true. Yeah, it's all played, like the noir stuff in this is played so incredibly straight. Yeah. That's so true.
I think the diarrhea poisoning was my favorite thing from this episode, because like I have never heard anybody say that outside of the context of this show or people talking about the show, but there's no question what they're talking about at all.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And they say it so much that almost by the end of it, it's sort of like, yeah, that's just the phrase that I would use. Right. Of course.
Yeah. Diarrhea poisoning. I say that all the time. The other thing that I've got to say, because I went back and thought about our gimmicks episodes that have covered noirs, this is because of the right comedy versus serious nature of this. This is the one that lets us explore a noir trope that I don't think we've been able to yet, which is the inner monologue of the sort of detective or whoever's the main character focus, just using really, really random metaphors, which you will see in pulp novelizations of crime dramas all the time, to the point that they become absurd. And then Gans nails it on the head by saying, I'm going to make one so absurd that the characters don't even understand what they're saying. And that required some real attention to detail, because otherwise I don't think you can pull that off. The only thing I've seen that got close was that Adventure Time where BMO was the detective in that case.
Well, so for making the episode, the director Collins, he'd said that like when they were, you already know that they got him because they wanted him to do noir stuff. And he was just like, asked them directly. It's like, okay, how far do you want to go in that noir direction then? And they just said, very. And then it was like, okay, well, gonna take the ball and run with it, which is why I think this episode looks so drastically different and is so committed to the look of a noir, you know? So he says that they specifically like they shot it in color, made it black and white in post, but they did intentionally have to sort of adjust their lighting to accentuate shadows and highlights, right? So like to make sure that when they convert it to black and white, it would look good in black and white and look like a noir. They had to control the color palette on the wardrobe more than they ever did. So it's sort of like you get more costumes with more patterns and textures and like less focus on colors. And one of the reasons they had to focus less on colors is because of this element of red that this episode has, which is very unique to it. And I've not found anyone really explain exactly where that idea came from, other than just Megan Gans just wrote it into the script. I've seen people compare it to like Sin City, because it's also kind of like a modern noir that uses pops of color in it, right? So I think I could see that being a thing, but I could also just see being a thing where like Gans is really smart and like a creative genius, and it's sort of like our thing that we'll do differently with our noir, as that we're going to have these pops of red, and then we can sort of write the story around that with like involving cherries as a major part of this mystery, which means red is going to show up all the time. And then also you can sort of like evoke the idea of seeing blood like you would on a noir, except it's cherry juice. So like, it's not actually blood. So you can evoke the idea of like characters getting murdered and shot and stuff like that without that actually happening. But then it also like stands out that much because it's like this bright red on screen. But that was in the script. Like that was something that Megan Gans came up with and introduced to them from the beginning. What's so funny though, is that like that made it even more complicated to film, because they wanted to make the red stuff like practical. Like they didn't want to just film this and then just digitally like add red onto things. They wanted that to be pre-existing on set. So like things really were as red as they look in the episode on set, you know, so then they wouldn't have to add anything. They would just remove everything around it. But that also meant that they would have to look around set and like remove anything else that was red other than the one red thing. So if like someone walks in with like red lipstick in, nothing else on set can be red, because that's going to make it harder for them to filter the red out in post. So that had to add a lot of work to it. And then that also meant that like people naturally have red in their face. People naturally have rosy cheeks. So some people who had like more red faces had to have more makeup applied to them, or had to have the makeup slightly tinged green. To make sure that no red would come through on camera, which is like, again, the commitment to doing this like this is so wild to me. Like they truly went above and beyond for no other reason, just for the art, because they just wanted to do it and see if they could.
It also changes sort of like me thinking about, because the women, when the waitress shows up in this red dress is banging. But then knowing that it was probably the ugliest red dress in the world because it was too red. It was probably too red.
It has to be so bright red. Yeah, right.
That to look at it, you'd be like, ah, God. And yet the effect is sultry. The effect is so communicative of that there's something unique happening here. I couldn't quite see Charlie Day's handprint from the very opening, though I think that is a very stark opening for people who can actually see colors. But the lips and the dress looked good every time a character had them.
I mean, that I feel like that must speak for a lot, that like you can, you know, if you're colorblind and can still see the red pops, like that means they did it right, and I think it's important to say, because again, I don't think it can be stressed enough that like just making something black and white isn't enough to make it a noir. It's the contrast. And that also means that if you want to have pops of color, it has to be incredibly heavily saturated color to pop in that high contrast black and white environment.
I could see the cherries too, which also makes me think that no one should eat those because they are definitely
like radioactive red.
Thank you. We talked a little bit about it with Charlie's handprint, but this like a good noir, it starts at the end, but already you've got Charlie's dialogue like telling you that you're still in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, because he's grunting, he's talking painfully, but he says, let's start at the most natural place, which is the end. That's wrong. Like, the most natural place to start is the beginning.
Actually, that's a really good joke. It didn't even really click with me. Actually, that's really funny.
So stupid. And then we get the opening credits, but in this beautifully stylized, very 20s, 30s, haute couture metropolitan font.
The music is so good. Like throughout this whole episode,
Music's to die for.
like really incredibly done.
I have a feeling that I could have convinced Kaylee that I was watching an actual noir thing if she didn't know what I was doing already.
I mean, truly though, like, yeah, I think you could kind of trick someone with it. I mean, it would maybe look a little too high definition for like an actual black and white noir, but like there would be a second, I think, especially with the opening credits, that you just be like, oh, what movie is this? And then it's like, wait, is that Charlie Day? Like, what's this? You know?
Oh, well, we do jump back to the beginning, and we learn that Charlie is the bar's janitor. Even though he's acting like a grizzled detective, he's still a janitor in this world. And I love that it takes that very seriously. And he's going to investigate a murder of the toilet. And that it's a good gig. And then I feel like I'm wasting it to say that like my favorite moment was the very first scene, but Trouble walked in like it always does on a great set of legs, and it being Dennis made me howl laughing, because that is the line you give when your femme fatale enters, and yet it is Dennis, who is a sexy man, but just not what I would expect to see.
They're like mid-Atlantic accents in this. Really, really well done too. Like, again, you know, I think we're talking about like the thing that makes this so stand out is that like these are people who are artists,
right?
And that means they are also actors, and they are fucking good. Everyone in the show is so good at talking like they do in noir movies with that very particular mid-Atlantic accent, and with the very particular rapid fire, fast line deliveries. Everyone there's not a weak link in this episode. Everyone nails it.
And the thing that I like the best about it is I've seen people do this now, and like they're so over the top with that accent and everything. This was not over the top. It was pretty much exactly like you would see back in a movie in the 30s, 40s, 50s.
And that's right, except for D, and that's almost better. That like everyone's at their A game, except for D, who's very purposefully doing it a little bit too over. And I think that sells that so much better.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah.
That is when D comes in, when we first learn her. And again, just a guffaw moment. This before knowing who D was to these people, because this was the first episode that I watched. And then after, maybe an even bigger laugh, Charlie being like, ooh, what's happening, Toots? And then she reveals that she's D, and just the like, oh, you.
Why didn't Frank call me himself? Why send one of his goons?
What? No goon.
No?
No. I'm a knockout blonde with a body that would make a statue blush.
I get more of a goon vibe from you.
All right, can you just come and get him, please? And also clean my apartment? I'll make it worth your while.
Oh, sure, I catch. Either I take the job or you and the other goons play patty cake with my kidneys.
God damn it, I'm not... I'll buy you a new set of rags.
Well, that's all you had to say.
So good. So good.
Yeah. And you get the goon runner from that. And like Caitlin Olsen's reaction is like, I don't know, get more of a goon vibe from you. She's like, all right, like it's so, her reactions to things are so uniquely her. Like I've never seen anyone else make those grunting sounds that Caitlin Olsen does as this character.
But this is where we learn about the diarrhea poisoning for Frank. And so we're off to Frank and talk about noir and like sort of the imagery that you use to really do this. We are close up on DeVito's face. He has got this excellent sweat work. It's a little distorted. It's just a tiny bit distorted to give you a little bit of like feeling like you're too close. It is amazing photography in this moment.
And magically showing him sitting on the toilet without being completely gross about that.
Yeah, they like wrap him in blankets and stuff like that. So, but you just see just the slightest bit of his bare leg to make it clear that he's not wearing pants right now. It's really well done.
So good.
Yeah. Weirdly, honestly, like what's so funny is that like Danny DeVito is kind of like underplaying it more than anyone else, I would say, because he is the character who's the victim. Like he's actually more normal than he normally is in this high concept scenario.
Yeah. We get some great red, by the way, on Dee when she comes in. She's got her lips red, but we're about to meet the waitress who also delivers some great red because she's carrying a cherry pie and she's got red lips. This little sequence in the alleyway of her man is roughed up. And then we've got our hero, Charlie, there to save her, which is probably a fantasy that Charlie has had for 13 years. That he's getting to sort of live out in this noir world.
It's fun, and it's fun that they use her in this role too. Like she has she's got a hugely significant role in this episode, which is really cool.
We keep following the story. Charlie's sort of uncovering where everything's coming from. They find themselves.
Is this when you see him walking with the notepad and you see his child handwriting and this drawing of a snail and everything?
All the people who Frank has wronged, and I will confirm, thank you to the It's Always Sunny Wikipedia on this one, but these are all enemies of the gang through various reasons that I think are pretty self-evident if you have watched every episode.
I love the attention to detail, the continuity for that. We're in the scene after that is the scene with the private party. I really like when they're trying to, do their fun rhythmic noir speak, and then like Mac adds on like, and there's barely any dudes. It's like, don't add on, but there's a rhythm. Like it's so good.
Because that's one of those breaks where all of a sudden we're back in the regular Patty's bar. We're just shooting shit, and they're cutting up on each other because one of them wants to take a joke a little further than it needed to go. But then we're right back to the noir. Not even a break to get back. And again, we've got that bowl of red fruit punch, I suppose, that just looks blood almost because it is so red.
Yeah.
And just playing that whole thing like there's something secret going on. I mean, we find out later that there kind of is, but going in there and the kid just like, oh, I need a bowl of red 40.
Well, and you're right, because that is sort of very noir, is that everyone's got a secret. And what I think this does as a serious noir, and credit to Gans, is it plays that like a noir would, in that the secret that people think they know isn't even the right secret. So you're being secretive about the completely wrong secret, but that's what that's fucking Maltese Falcon that's half the damn movie is people being secretive about something that isn't even important to the movie.
Yeah. Well, and also I think an important thing that like noir episodes should do is like, if you build a mystery, it does, no matter how comedic it is, the mystery should still make sense. And like when you go back through this and like learn what's happening by the end of it, it all makes sense. The clues are all there, like it is actually like, it's a silly mystery, but it is a very well constructed mystery.
At the bar, though, Charlie sees Dee and is like, no, girl, you're supposed to be back with Frank. So he follows after her, but it's not Dee. It's Rickety Cricket in a wig who has taken on Dee's shift. And this is where we learn that Cricket has been contaminating the cherries across town. And
apparently just totally into BDSM. He's like so into like being called a slut and getting slapped around. And he only like gives the information after it's confirmed that he will not be slapped around anymore and not degrade. It's like, oh, you're not going to degrade anymore? Fine, I'll tell you.
And just the way he's like, oh yeah, Frank told me to get the cherries. Oh wait, why would you get the cherries? To get feces on them. Like, of course, why else would you do that?
Naturally.
Like just how matter of fact that is with everything is, I think it perfectly encapsulates his character. Like, this is the way the world is for me, so it must be the way the world is for everybody. Like, why can't you see that I would be putting shit on the cherries?
Yeah, and I like the way it sort of escalates to the way that all of Cricket stuff actually is really funny because it is the most sort of like kind of meta that they kind of get with it, where like everything that he's doing is kind of breaking character a bit, because there's the bit where it's sort of, it starts off with like, oh, when someone flashes you a roll of nickels, you do what they ask. And then it's sort of like, it's in metaphor, but then it stops being subtle. And it's sort of like, yeah, you'll take whatever you want, no matter what they put in you. And it's just like, just becomes raunchier and raunchier until it's just sort of like, okay, like we got it the first time. Like but it just keeps going for so long, like getting more and more direct, which is just a fun subversion of like the noir-y metaphor speak that people usually do.
And a roll of nickels is a diss on the size of someone's genitalia. Just in case. Okay, just making sure everyone. Listen, audience. Now you know.
No, that's true. Not everyone would.
I didn't know that.
Because that's like a funny subtle joke, like wrapped into
right.
other jokes that's already being told. Yeah, that's such a good point.
Well, now I know that.
Oh, see, Chris is among them. If
There you
I'm going
go.
to stand at this microphone
There
and
you
tell
go.
people what baseball is, I need to explain genital related humor too.
Makes sense.
I also love that in a lot of ways, Rickety Cricket is a femme fatale because he's put on this wig. He is acting like a femme fatale. And I think that's a really nice subversion. But outside of the Rickety of it all, where he is just being sort of a goofball and being this character, I don't think that it's played for like, isn't it funny that a man's in a dress? I genuinely believe that when the femme fatale is being sold, it's being sold as the femme fatale. And I really, really dug that.
Yeah, well, and I think it's funny too because it's like it's clever because already you have Dee and the waitress who theoretically you would slot those to be like, oh, your femme fatale and your romance interest are the two femme fatales or whatever. But because Dee cannot be a femme fatale, no one wants her to be. Like they have to find someone else to play that role. So like it works on multiple levels.
Right.
And when you said you hadn't seen any other episodes before this one, this was the scene I was worried about you having an issue because you've got him going out there dressed up like Dee, getting treated essentially how they would be treating Dee. And, I was worried that there would be some kind of, here's somebody trans or expressing more of a feminine identity in a masculine body. And, are they playing that for laughs? But if you know the character, how desperate he is with everything, this is not about any physical aspect of him. This is about him just being super desperate.
Yeah. And I do wonder, Chris, that's a great question. And I can't explore that world because I also had who David Hornsby is in Mythic Quest to like sort of know that there's enough trust between these artists that this is being done in good faith. I that was always with me, and I can't watch this without that because I have watched David Hornsby be humiliated as David Brisby too many times. Like this man loves taking on an acting role where someone makes him feel like shit. Like that's his character.
I think when you watch this thing, there's definitely a sense that it's because this character is just always the butt monkey, no matter what he does, not because he is in a wig and a dress in this case. Like he's getting slapped around because that's just what happens to him naturally anyway.
Sometimes bricks fall down. That's how it works. I love this. The waitress comes over to Charlie's apartment. This is again one of those great break moments where he is for, I don't know why, mixing cat. Oh, Derek and I both have had cats.
Okay.
Derek still has cats. I have had cats. The idea of getting cat food anywhere close to something I would eat, and I have a high tolerance for disgusting, that is a bridge too far.
Can I fix you a drink?
No, thanks. I'm sober. Plus, I saw you put cat food in it.
Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't.
You did, Charlie. I saw you scoop it out of the
did. I
can,
put
and
a
it
little bit
smells
in.
so bad. You're so close to me with that.
All right, I'll put it down.
God.
Yeah, they could shit everywhere, all over. However much they want, shit everywhere in this episode. Fine with me. The cat food, that's where I draw the line. That's too much.
It is canonical for the show that Frank and Charlie will eat cat food.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
It is
that
disgusting.
makes me want to watch more episodes.
Every
'cause
time.
That didn't come up in any of the ones I watched. I love it because I love these people being disgusting, gross humans. And it takes a lot for me to think you are a disgusting, gross human. And having diarrhea is not enough. It happens to all of us. It's not actually that disgusting. It's just something that happens. Eating cat food is so gross.
No, it's worse than eating cat food. It's drinking cat food out of a glass mixed with like vodka. Like that's what's bad to me. If you just say eating cat food, it's sort of like that's like gross or whatever. But like whatever. It's just a weird thing people eat.
You're right.
Drinking
It's worse
it
in
in liquid form mixed with alcohol.
it's worse.
That's what makes it so
I mean,
bad.
who among us
So anyway.
didn't try the kibble when we were kids?
Some of it smelled really
Both of
good.
you, I can't.
You know?
Well, but anyway, the break comes from that he mixes this drink and then brings it over to the waitress, and she's like, ew, get that away from me. It smells disgusting. And in that moment, she is the waitress from the coffee shop being like, you are disgusting. Get away from me. But then instantly she's back to being the love interest. And I was so happy about this.
Yeah. They cut to him waking up. So it's like seemingly that he's, slept with the waitress, but then he wakes up and he sees Dee next to him. And at first it's meant to be played like, oh no, he woke up next to a corpse, but she can't act as a corpse, as a sexy corpse. Her way as being a sexy corpse is having like this like giant shit-eating grin on her face. It's so
stupid.
Good. It's so stupid.
And then we get more goon talk here. I can't impress upon everyone how good this dialogue is, how well Gans has written this script, because it is the back and forth that you would see on an It's Always Sunny episode, except they are taking this sort of like assignment of her role very seriously.
And you get some good, I mean, they're basically just trying to blackmail him and pretend, like, take pictures of him next to a corpse, even though it's like the corpse of someone who's alive. So like that wouldn't really work anyway, but whatever. It's a noir thing of like trying to set up the detective, right? It's a common thing, but Charlie asks for a meet up with Vince, but there's this hilarious bit where they do the classic noir thing where, you know, they're not facing each other, right? Like someone's dramatically turned to the wall. The others are standing behind them, you know?
Tell him I want to meet. Talking to me?
Yeah.
Well, I can't tell because I'm not looking at you.
I ain't looking at you either.
Are you still here?
Nah, we're gonna go now.
We're leaving now, though.
That's for the best.
They can't communicate because they're refusing to look at each other and can't even tell what's happening or if they're still even in the room together. It's so silly.
Even going so far as to say, okay, we're leaving now.
Right. We're leaving now. Okay. Bye.
Yeah.
But before Charlie gets this meetup with Vince that he's asked for, he goes to go confront Frank about this cherry running scheme, but finds Frank injured on the ground. And this is what Derek brought up earlier. Because we're using this red from the cherries, what we can do is say Frank landed on a glass full of cherries. He says his stomach is all cut up, which is probably true, that if you fell on a mason jar, you'd probably have some lacerations. But he's acting like he's dying. And it looks like he's dying because of the cherry juice, and it's so stark compared to the black and white that he's probably fine. And he's just being a Frank drama queen, which I now know, having seen some more episodes of Frank in them, this is how Frank would act if he got some cuts on his belly. That's what made this all work on a second viewing. Because on a first viewing, I was just having fun. It was a noir. But on the second viewing, I really got the juice of this that worked for me.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, see that?
Also, we didn't comment on Danny DeVito's ridiculous wig either. Like, the wig that they give him in this is so funny. Like, why does he have so much hair in this noir? It doesn't like make any sense. Like, I love that it's there. It's just so fun. It's just such a funny choice.
And then Frank is about to tell who the mastermind is, but then, oh no, our hero gets knocked unconscious. Another excellent trope there from the noir. At one point in time, right before a big moment, your hero's got to get knocked out.
Yeah, right after learning that the conspiracy goes all the way to City Hall.
Whatever that's about.
Yeah, what the fuck, whatever that means. So he wakes up talking to Vince, who, you know, asks, who's like, asks for the waitress, but, you know, Charlie is able to escape by mixing ammonia and bleach to make the janitor's helper, which knocks Vince out. But he's like, I'm a janitor. I see this all the time. I'm immune to it at this point. So basically he's immune to chloramine gas, which will kill you.
I think why this joke works is that this is the thing that like is dangerous about mixing bathroom chemicals together, that like everyone warns you about. Don't mix bathroom chemicals together because bleach is in a lot of things. And chlorine is a lot of things. And this chloramine or ammonia is in a lot of things. And chloramine will kill you if you smell it for like 3 or 4 minutes. Like you will just die. You'll pass out first, but you will simply die. And bathrooms famously not well ventilated.
And you've seen Charlie throughout this episode trying to put glue in a bag so he can smell it, eating the cat food and stuff, which it's a disgusting smell too. So, you know, it's believable even without all the context of Charlie from the other episodes that this is something that this guy could probably have pulled off. Except he'd probably be dead, so I don't think he could actually do it.
But there even is a line in it. He's like, you know, it's good for my health or bad for my health. One of those two. Just again, like, yeah, one of those two. Sure.
Back at the bar, Charlie eyes a shot as the waitress comes in with a pie. When it's a cherry pie, so that red in that cherry pie is popping. Yeah. He downs the shot, which is important, weirdly, honestly. And just like fucking just goes right into that fucking pie, man. But, you know, as you would expect, the pie is poisoned because actually it's the waitress who is behind all of this. So he confronts her about the cherry racket, classic femme fatale thing where like the dame was the evil one all along. And he's getting diarrhea poisoning. She's revealing the truth that she had been running the cherries, the whole cherry scheme. And what made it a scheme was that they'd been sitting in the vats long enough that they had fermented, become hooch. So they were selling hooch to people. And one of the jokes that I really like in this is that like the fun callback of like when Frank was sort of outlining like their cherry scheme, it was sort of like, we're giving it to old folks' homes for their, you know, cherries and their pineapple upside down cake. We're giving it to like Sweet 16 parties. We're giving it to like, you know, AA meetings basically. And then she's like restating like, yeah, we're giving it to old folks because they want to fucking get illegal hooch in their retirement homes. We're giving it to Sweet 16 parties because they want to sneak in booze to the Sweet 16 parties. We're bringing it to like AA meetings because people who were in rehab want to drink. Like, so it's all the exact same place that they're sneaking alcohol in. Like, it works. It's like a really good reveal, honestly.
And the way that they do it, I think is brilliant. Just bringing on the extra few seconds after where you saw Frank's thing.
Right. It's so funny.
Just incredible. But Charlie tells her that she won't get away with it. He's already figured her out because he took a shot of bleach before eating the pie and is like, now I'm immune to poison. And she very aptly is like, no, you're like super poisoned now.
Yeah. She's like, you know, she came in with like poisoning him and she's sort of like, dude, stop eating the pie. I told you it's poison. Like, she's kind of worried about it. She's sort of like, I wasn't trying to like kill you though. Like, what are you doing now?
I mean, but this pie is good. Let me get one more bite.
Right.
It does look good. It looks like a good pie.
He vomits because of the bleach, cherries all over her and him. And that is how he got the red from the very beginning. But he's already called the police and police officer D shows up. She's changed vocations.
So stupid. It's so stupid. Like, I was undercover the whole time. Like, that doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about?
But makes perfect sense for how her acting career goes in the show.
And I love when she's dragging the waitress off and the waitress is like, oh, you're hurting my arm. And she's like, that's okay with me.
And then we're done. And then we're back at the beginning. This is perfect full loop. And I think this is not to like go over it again, but this is like where I got a little emotional because I was like, this was just perfect. This was a perfect episode of television.
I think it's also really smart to not have any sort of frame or wraparound for this. There's no Charlie wakes up for a dream or someone asked Charlie to remember what he did. Like the plot synopsis, like on Disney Plus, because you can watch this on Disney Plus, funny enough, which is insane to me because it's part of Hulu and you can, you know, integrate Hulu and Disney Plus. But like the plot synopsis there, and then IMDb is sort of like in Charlie's memory, blah, blah, blah. But like, it's not framed that way. You just go into the episode as a noir and leave the episode as a noir.
Right.
They don't try to explain any of this, how it equates to the real world. If it does, if it happened, it doesn't matter. Like, none of that's the point. The point is the art of making a noir pastiche. And that, I love that commitment to it.
Yeah. I think you're right, Derek. I think if we had been It's All a Dream, I would have hated this. But because it never does that, you do get some Reddit posts of like, is this canon? Which barf. But
oh my God, who cares?
Like, is it canon for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? Calm down. But like, yeah, it is. This is actually what happened. It's just a goofy way of thinking about it. And in that way, I think it's a lot like The Gang Hits the Slopes, which is sort of that was like the Animal House episode, right? Like they were doing like the 80s bro movie. And I think this is that with noir, and that's what makes it work so well. It was just perfect. This might be my favorite thing that I've watched for the podcast.
Holy shit. That's wild.
You've watched some good things for the podcast too. So that's some pretty high praise.
Yeah, we really have. But if I were teaching film or television writing, I would demand people watch this because I just think that it is a perfectly written episode of television with diarrhea poisoning.
Truly, it's so funny. It's so silly, but it is really incredibly well done.
Then Chris, I really have to thank you because you're the reason for the season. You are the one who brought this into my life, and I'm now excited to report that like It's Always Sunny is something that I'm going to continue watching and checking out. So thank you very much for being the one who said I've got a good gimmick episode that we need to talk about.
Well, you're welcome, or I'm sorry, depending on how your husband feels about it.
I would love if they I don't love this because this is now the longest running live action sitcom, or most seasons.
Most seasons, because there's
you.
most seasons don't have many episodes, which I think is honestly smart for them, because it's just like, just do a few, and then this can keep going for like years and years and years, because we're only doing a few a year. I think that
I saw that it had more seasons than other things, and that made me be like, okay, 170 episodes, nothing to balk at, but like 170 episodes isn't like Ozzie and Harriet. Like there's like a ton of those fucking episodes. Well, Chris, you've been a great addition to our conversation today. Where can folks find more of you online and the other great things that you work on?
Well, the big thing for me is Play Comics, where you get to hear sometimes David or Derek, or maybe David and Derek in the future, come and talk about a video game based on a comic and how well that game represents that source material. So we're up there looking, not if the game is good, but if it's a good thing for me to say, hey, you like Batman, play this Batman game, and then we'll go about Batman. But I have a secret other thing that I don't know if David knows about.
Tell me.
There is a new thing that I'm working on with Carrington Martin, who is a frequent guest on the show. And we are looking at the things that we watched as children, whether it was made for kids or not, and the lessons you kind of learn from those, and really just why are we expected to forget all those lessons now? They're good enough for kids. Why don't they apply to adults?
Nice. Is that available now? Can folks tune into that, or coming soon?
As we're recording, this is coming soon.
Great.
So we've got an episode recorded where we looked at the Disney animated Robin Hood movie. After we record this one at some point today, we're going to be looking at the Recess episode King Gus. And probably some other things in the future.
Nice. That's exciting. That'll be really cool.
I'm really excited to get this one out.
Yeah.
That one's going to be called Sugar, Spite, and Everything is Fine.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for hanging out with us. David, where's the best place people can find you and everything you're doing?
Yeah, you can find me individually at DMuma online. I'm on Instagram and Blue Sky under that handle. It's DMUMA. And then I host a couple other podcasts. One is on hiatus right now, but there's an episode with Chris waiting to go, where we talk Lois from Malcolm in the Middle. And we will be back Mother's Day this year. We're just going to lean in and celebrate the hiatus in style. So Are You My Mother will be back in your ears starting late May. I'm also on a weekly show called Fear Coded with my friends Tyler and Marilee, where they are encouraging me to expand my horror palette. And the only reason I'm willing to do it is by making everything as gay as possible. And so it's April. We're celebrating Excommunicapril, Catholic horror all month long. Derek, what about you? Where can folks find you and the other projects you've got going on?
Sure, you can find me most places at Derek B. Gale. My other podcasts include Walloping Web Snappers, where we do deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made, Screonk, where we're going through Godzilla's filmography, and Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, where we are looking at Simpsons video games, as well as pop culture history and video game history and Simpsons history.
Gimmicks is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you're looking for other queer media podcasts, you can check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com.
And if you want to support this show by giving us a little tip, buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/gimmicks-pod. You can also follow this podcast at gimmicks-pod on Blue Sky and Instagram, and email us your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmickspodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe on all your podcast platforms. And until next time, friends, keep being weird.